Good morning, my friends. How are you? Welcome to another edition of Behind the Mic with me, Mikey here in the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. There we go. I got it. And as always, glad to have you along with me. Let's see. I got to change some times here on my timer. 12-minute, 13-minute, 7-minute. And 650. There, that's better. Those are the times, those are the lengths of the segments of the radio show. And of course, I am here in the studio to record this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, along with my good friend right there. There he is, Craig Plowman. Good morning, buddy. How are you? Look forward to seeing you in just about 2.5 weeks up in West Branch. Mad Jack, always a pleasure, buddy. Thanks for joining us. Cliff, wouldn't be a Wednesday without you being along. I got to make an adjustment here. Bring that down a little bit, which means I'm going to have to do this. You'd think I'd be a little bit better prepared, wouldn't you? Sometimes here in the studio, it's a little bit crazy. JT, I went by your boat yesterday and thought I need to talk to you. And JT, if I remember right, didn't you donate a charter to the golf outing coming up too? I appreciate that. Craig says that fishing's been really good. I finally got the new Angler Quest, and I was on the water yesterday. I did not get a limit. We got a few fish. Got a few fish in shallow and a few fish out deep. I feel like I've never fished before. It's kind of an interesting situation in that it's so late in the season and I'm just getting started. And I've got a trip Friday. I've got a trip Monday. Oh, okay. Mike, good morning, buddy. How are you? Weekly Bible study. Pretty good combo, I would say. Well, thank you for that, Mike. I appreciate that. Ted, good morning. Butch, how are you? Randy, you fished yesterday, picked up 4. We got 14. And I know there were a lot of people out there that had limits of fish by 9 and were sorting through them. But I got a new boat. I'm going through my gear, finding some things that I need to fix. And the thing of it is, like, how much effort do I put into it, to be honest with you? Because I'm not looking at a 3-month fishing season. I'm looking at like a 2.5, 3-week fishing season. Because realistically, every year by the end of July, I'm done. And I think I probably will be this year as well. So I'm trying to cram a lot into a short period of time. But the new Angler Quest is absolutely beautiful. The fit and finish on this boat are very, very nice. So we started out in skinny water, flicker minnows, number 7 flicker minnows. I also ran a couple of spoons off the back corners behind jets. Those took fish. And then it got slow in there, and I thought, well, I hate to go out deep, but that's where we're going to have to go to catch fish. So we went out to about 24, 25 feet of water, the west side of the tip of Corian Reef. Bunch of boats out there because it was a really nice day. It wasn't windy. It wasn't blowing at all. And we picked up some more fish. We had flicker minnows and jets and spoons out. And out deeper, it was spoon bite. I'm fishing again tomorrow. I might just go out there tomorrow by myself, just doing some more exploring and checking things out because I do have a charity charter on Friday and I have a charity charter on Monday. So I'm feeling the pressure to get into some fish so I can get these people some fish. David, good morning, buddy. How are you? JT, appreciate that. Ruben, how are things in the beautiful state of Colorado? Where'd you go, Ruben? There you are. Hello, Vaughn. Nice to have you along with us. Uncle Johnny, how you doing, my friend? My brother. Paul's still up in irons. TJ, help me out. I did not know. Well, who caught it? Was it the same guy who caught the other one? I didn't hear anything about the state record flathead. I've had a guy here on the show before. He's actually from Indiana, but he spends a lot of time fishing catfish here in Michigan. I got a mental block. I can't think of his name. Was it him? Because it wouldn't surprise me at all if he caught a new state record a catfish. The guy is the catfish whisperer, if I can borrow a phrase from Bear Whisperer and Whitetail Whisperer. Corey, good morning. Judy, it's always a pleasure to have you along with us. No, not the same guy. Thank you. Jim, good morning. Not the same guy. You're killing me, Craig. Could not keep the lines in the water at the humps. 2 to 3 man limits on consecutive days. My problem, as you know, Craig, is I concentrate on that skinny water, and I'm pretty good in the skinny water when there are fish in there in good numbers. There were fish in there yesterday, not in good numbers, so I bailed out and I went out deep, and I just don't have the confidence out deep. You know, when I'm in 10 feet of water, I know where the fish are. When I get into 25 feet of water, it's okay. Should I be fishing the high fish? Should I be fishing the fish on the bottom? Because there were a bunch of fish laying on the bottom. So I don't have the confidence out deep, but probably going to have to be out there again tomorrow. And again, it was a spoon bite. I love my flicker minnows, but if I'm going to put out a bunch of line, it's a lot easier to put them out on jets and spoons. Joel, good morning. Ron, good morning. Paul, we saw a doe with 3 fawns. Is that unusual? No. 2 were white. That's unusual. Good morning, Steve. How are you? Thanks for joining me on this edition of Behind the Mic. My name is Mike Avery. I'm here in the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. I will tell you who's coming up on this week's show here shortly. A couple things to talk about first. Have you heard any cicadas buzz yet? I got my first reports of cicadas last week. I just wanted to ignore them and pretend it didn't happen. And then yesterday, I faintly heard one at our house. Not strong enough to make a definitive entry into my log about when cicadas buzz yet. But and why is that significant? I don't know. I don't know if it's significant or not, but I find it interesting. Is the correlation that the earlier the cicadas buzz, the earlier we have a frost? That's the old saying. I don't know. Okay, Ross, I'm glad you came. I was just getting to you, Ross. We did have a great day on the water with Brent, who you know very well. And I don't know if you know Gus from Pizza Sam's in Midland, but he's a great guy, so he had a great crew. I wanted to talk about Ross because Ross, aside from being a good guy, a good friend of mine, he also runs bear hunting trips in Ontario, in White River, Ontario. I love White River. The people up there, there's lots of bears. Ross has found out that he actually has 2 openings for this fall season, and fall is actually mid-August. The price on these, if you don't mind me saying so, Ross, is $3,000 all-inclusive except for your license, and the license is only like $250, something like that. So you get lodging, bait, and meals for $3,000. If you decide you want to make your own meals, that price goes down to $2,300. So Ross Elliott is on here right now. You can message him directly, or if you want to reach out to me, I can put you in touch with Ross if you want to take advantage of his White River, Ontario bear hunts in mid-August. I'm not going to say it's a guarantee you're going to shoot a bear, but I will say it's a very, very good odds that you will see bears and have an opportunity to shoot a bear if you wish. So, Ross, you're on my list. Also, along that line, Richard P. Smith is having a book signing at Jay's in Clare on Friday. And then Saturday, he and Al Stewart are being inducted into the Michigan Outdoor Writers Hall of Fame at the Weber Outdoor Education Center across the parking lot. Okay, 43 inches, 64 pounds out of Monroe. Fish was dead and frozen when ooh. Why was the fish dead and frozen when it was weighed? Because if I think I got a state record fish, I'm keeping that thing alive and I'm getting it to a scale. Dead and frozen does, I'm not going to say it makes me suspect, but it gets my attention, TJ. What about you? Jackie was in Ohio and heard a ton of them. Morning, Brad. Tuesday the 15th, you're going to be out there, Mapes. In the meantime, I see you're out there pan fishing with your son because he made you go. Brian, thank you. 6 to 7 feet of water. You're talking my language, brother. By Callahan Reef, 20 walleyes Sunday, only 2 yesterday. Okay. So this gives me some hope because walleye are notorious for moving and or shutting on and turning on and off. So if you're telling me you got 20 fish in that water on Sunday and only 2 days later, that's interesting. What are your thoughts, Brian? Have those fish moved, or was yesterday just a tough bite? At least for us skinny water guys. I feel like it was a tough skinny water bite, but the deep guys did really well. I would just as soon tomorrow go in there and catch a bunch of fish skinny so I could take my crew, my charity crew, in there Friday. Randy, good morning. How are you? Rob, who was up in White River, says there are a few beers. There's a few beers there, too. I will be up in White River again this year, mid-August. I will be hunting with Ron St. Louis of Northern Wilderness Bear Outfitters. Two guys I think the world of, Ron St. Louis and Ross Elliott. Ross says they will see bears for sure. I've seen them every time I go to bait. Johnny Bowler, speaking of bears, the bear whisperer. Johnny, did you get your butt back to work this week, finally, after doing nothing but loafing, drinking beer, and fishing all of last week? Not that that's a bad combination. Loafing, fishing, and drinking beer, all three are very honorable things to do. TJ says same. Yeah. Paul, is this a new venture for Ross, or has he been doing bear hunts? Just never heard about it. He's been doing it probably, 3 years now, Ross? Have I ever used a laser to sight in a rifle scope? I have. No. To answer your question, no, I have not. Captain Doug, good morning, buddy. How are you? Doug, I look forward to seeing you in West Branch, and thank you for I think you donated a trip for us. I appreciate that. Thank you so very much. Doug, as you see, I got the new Angler Quest, finally got back out in the water. I caught some skinny water fish. It was not on fire, so I went out deep, and I always struggle out deep. Good morning, Art. I always struggle out deep because I don't know how to, first of all, when I'm in 25 feet of water and I've got fish suspended, so I got a ton of them laying on the bottom, and then I've got to suspend it all the way up to the surface. It's like, which ones do I target, and how do I get to the deep fish? So we ended up catching our deep fish on spoons behind net divers, but it's not something I'm confident in. You give me skinny water, and if there's fish in there, I'll catch them. But I go out deep. Yeah, you twisted your arm, huh? I know you do. Turned off after 9. They do that. They will turn off and on. Jay Widerski just sent in a sponsorship for the golf outing. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate that. Which actually is perfect because there it is. The second annual Mike Avery Outdoors charity golf outing to benefit MUCC's youth camp. It's coming up fast now. It's Friday, July 25th at the West Branch Country Club in beautiful West Branch. We do still have openings for players, and we do have an unlimited number of openings for sponsors. Now, sponsors could be a cash donation, or it could be, as some of you on here have done, if you have a product or a service that you want to donate for our auction to raise money, we would welcome it. Go to mucc.org/golf, mucc.org/golf. I think we're going to have a couple of new things this year, including some new games. As a way for you to raise money for MUCC's youth camp. And again, this is not a fundraiser for the MUCC in general, although I have no problem with MUCC. I support them very much so. This is for the youth camp to get kids involved in the outdoors. There's the flyer for it right there, mucc.org/golf. It's coming up Friday, July 25th at the West Branch Country Club. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate that. Paul is fishing with Doug in Ludington next month. Worked till noon on Monday, went home blind. Now back 10-hour days. What does that mean, Johnny? You went home blind. I hope that's not something bad. Mike, good morning. I've got your brother Gabe on the show next week. How are you doing now, Mike? Ross, I've been guiding for many years. 20 years. I've been guiding for many years. 20 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 ye in Michigan. Well, that's right. I forgot about that, Ross. I forgot about that. Yes, Ross has been. Thank you, Ross, for reminding me of that. Paul, Ross has been a Michigan bear guide forever. And as he said, he's been guiding in Canada now. This is his fourth year. Who's on the show this week? I'll get to it. That's what I need, Craig. Who was I thinking about? My buddy Ken Ruff from church yesterday went out and did real well in deep water. I was thinking actually about giving Ken a call and just saying, hey, you want to fish tomorrow? And we'll jump on my angler quest, go out to that deeper water, and maybe he can, I mean, I know the basics, right? I know the crankbaits, I know spoons, I know jets, I know tadpoles, I know the 50-50 method. I know about putting snap weights on your baits to get them deeper. I know about them. Doesn't mean I'm good at it. Knowledge does not equate to expertise. Experience equates to expertise. Doug says, Paul, same here. Looking forward to meeting you and your crew. JT, my experience in the deeper waters, a deeper fish bite better than a fish up high. And see, I used to say just the opposite, JT. Back when I was fishing deep water more, I always was the suspended fish to target because my thinking was the fish that are on the bottom are down there to rest after feeding. But I've talked to enough guys and seen this a little bit in my own experience that those big fish down there, if you put a bait in front of them, and oftentimes they are big fish, you can get them to bite. But again, I'm talking out my rear end here because I'm not a deep water guy. Good morning, Jim. How are you? Rob, you continue to make your crawler bites, but there will never be a crawler bite there. Oh, you couldn't see yourself being there all day. Doug, I'm a skinny water guy myself, but have forced myself to be a deep water guy the last couple of years. Your down rods target the deep fish, and the boards target suspended fish with inline weights and harnesses, and then crankbaits on my outside boards. Usually our down rods run the show and dominate the rest of the spread. Thank you, Doug. I hear you. I mean, if I was doing this for a living instead of just for fun, I would force myself to become a better deep water troller. But because I don't have to, I fight it tooth and nail. Where's it raining, Ed? Where are you that it's raining? Mike, yes, I'm going to talk handguns with him. It was an interesting competition, even for someone who... Were you out there, Mike? Were you out there with Gabe? Randy says, Mike, call Spoon Guy, Brad, and Lance. That's the thing. I have fished with both Brad and Lance. Is it you, Charlie?
It's me today.
All right.
If that's okay?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, if I have to.
You got 3 minutes to think about it.
All right. I fished, Randy, as you know, with both Brad and Lance this year, and watched them run spoons, and they run spoons exactly the same way I run spoons, behind divers. But it's just a matter of experience and comfort and confidence. Confidence is the big word right there. I am starting to really enjoy running spoons off jet divers on the back corners of the angler quest, even in skinny water. We caught fish yesterday like that, like in 8 feet of water. And, fish comes in that close and hits. It's a lot of fun. Brian, 7-day hunting, lodging, and food. You can fish when you $1,800. Nice. The only reason, Brian, I'm not personally recommending those guys is I don't know them. You do, so your recommendation is valid and carries weight. I don't know them, so I don't feel comfortable recommending them just because I don't know them. Good morning, Randy. All right, Johnny, you have a good day, buddy. Brighton's where it's pouring, downstate. Okay. Jim says fawns are dropping everywhere down here. Boy, Tennessee, our fawns have been dropping forever up here. Paul says, I'm not sure if it's fog or smoke, but it's bad here this morning. Well, that's a good point, Mike. Not everybody can have your brother's schedule where he goes off and everything that he wants. Here you go. Nick Grillo. Man, talk about a fun lineup you had last weekend and show. Can't wait to see how it. Nick Grillo is talking about last week's rundown. Nick Grillo was on the show. Last week's rundown included Nick Grillo of Michigan Brand Meats, MichiganBrand.net. How you feeling, by the way, Nick? It included, you feeling good enough to go fishing tomorrow, Nick? It included Mark Romanek of Fishing 411 and Uncle Ted Nugent. Brent, there's a guy who was fishing with me yesterday. Good morning, Brent. Brent, once again, thank you for your indulgence and your patience as I tried to remember how to fish yesterday. It was nice having you on the boat, my friend. Let me get my right timer here. Okay. Here's who's coming up on this week's show. Not nearly as good as last week's, okay? Because Nick Grillo's not on this week. So, I mean, there you go right there. On this week's show, if I can find my rundown, and I thought I had it right here. There we go. Jim Felgenauer talks about sturgeon fishing in Michigan, conservation, getting involved, and more. I hope he's in a talkative mood because I have him scheduled for most of the first hour.
1 minute.
Then Mark Copeland of Jay's Sporting Goods. Mark happens to be the store manager for their Gaylord store, but he's also an avid archer. We'll talk about getting ready for the upcoming bow season. Is it too early to start thinking about that? Probably not. Adam Bump from the DNR talks about turkey numbers. Then he sticks around to answer this week's Ask Avery question. By the way, last week on Ask Avery, we talked about getting a crop damage permit for rabbits. John Haderer emailed me and reminded me, he said, right in the DNR book, it says you don't have to have a crop damage permit. If you got damage from rabbits, you can shoot them anytime. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. And then in the third hour, Bobby Sullivan of Icebreaker Charter. Charlie, you are relentless. Bobby Sullivan of Icebreaker Charters talks about making the transition from walleye fishing. Oh, Charlie!
3, 2, 1.
Man,
Yes, you have to go to work.
I got to go to work. Charlie said I got to go to work. How do you like my Mickey Mouse here? Said, it's a small world after all. Bobby Sullivan talks about making the transition from walleye fishing to salmon fishing. Then we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. And Dave says he's going to have a sheephead recipe this week. All right, my friends, I got to do switch focus from this microphone to this microphone. I got to go to work. Charlie's making me. MUCC.org/golf to get involved in our golf outing. I will be back tonight at 7 o'clock for another edition of Wednesday Night Live. And in the meantime, have a great day. All right, my friends, got to go to work. Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. Here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across this great state of Michigan. Yeah, this is a radio show, all right. You know, a lot of times people say, hey, I heard your podcast. I'm like, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm like, what podcast outlet did you listen to the podcast on? I'm thinking, one of the SoundCloud or Spotify or wherever. They said, oh, no, I heard it on my local radio station. Well, then you weren't listening to the podcast. You were listening to the radio show. Charlie, does anybody care other than you and I? You and me, whatever it's supposed to be? Charlie says, I don't know. I don't know. I guess as long as you're listening, that's what I should concentrate on. As long as you are listening and hear my voice, it doesn't matter what venue you hear it on, right? So thank you. Thank you for joining me this week. Thank you for sticking with me for so many years across my broadcast career and television and now in radio and some social media stuff as well. I do certainly appreciate it. So, since we talked last week, what has changed in the world? That's a loaded question, isn't it? What has changed in the outdoor world here in Michigan? I'll be more specific. Have you heard any cicadas buzz yet? I got a report last week from a couple of people said, oh, yeah, we've heard cicadas buzzing for days now. And I'm like, I don't want to hear it. It's too early. Don't want to think about it. Don't want to go down that road. And then actually last night at our house, at the Avery house, I thought I heard the faintest buzz of a cicada. I can't verify. I can't be sure of it. I'm not confident enough in that to put it in my log, to put it on my calendar, because I keep track of this every year when I hear the first cicada buzz. Why do I care? I don't know. Why is it significant? Maybe it's not. I like to keep track of this because the old saying is it'll be a certain number of weeks from the time you hear the first cicada buzz until we get the first frost. I originally heard it as 6 weeks. Well, it's not 6 weeks, believe me. I've kept track of this. My dad used to keep track of this. It's not 6 weeks. It's maybe it's not even 8 weeks, more like 10 weeks. But I guess the question is there a correlation from the time you hear the first cicada buzz until we get our first frost? Meaning, if the cicadas buzz earlier, we'll get our first frost earlier and vice versa. It seems to be that there is, there are patterns in Mother Nature, right? All kinds of patterns in Mother Nature. What else has changed? Well, I have the new Angler Quest. Da-da-da-da. The heavens opened, the angels sang, and the Angler Quest appeared at my dock, at my slip. It's a beautiful boat. Listen, every Angler Quest I've ever ran has been a beautiful boat, but it's interesting to see the evolution of these boats over the years. From this first vision, this first basically a prototype boat that Mr. Angler Quest Brad Dupuis put in the water many years ago, to this big fishing machine today. And again, every Angler Quest I've ever had has been a beautiful boat, but this one it's more solid. There's just something about it. The workstation in the back is absolutely beautiful. The fit and finish is the best ever. Some of the design tweaks are just so impressive. I have a 24-footer this time instead of a 26, and I don't think I'm going to miss that extra 2 feet in the bow at all. We put a 225 Merc on it. Thank you, Linwood Beach Marina, along with thank you, Brad Dupuis. And it performs like a champ. I control that thing down to almost nothing, as slow as I need to go. So it's a beautiful, beautiful boat. But now I'm facing the situation of trying to cram an entire summer of fishing, Saginaw Bay walleye fishing, into like 2.5 weeks. Because almost every year by the end of July, I'm done. So I'm working at it. I've been out on the water a couple times on that boat. It's an interesting experience to break in a new boat because every boat fishes a little bit differently, even if it's the same type of boat I've been using from year to year. And more than that, it was my gear that's been sitting in storage now since last summer. I'm not very good with keeping up fishing gear. I'm not. You take a guy like Jason Graham of Send It Charters out of Linwood Beach. That guy he is a master. He is so technical. He is so detail oriented. He saw my gear that I was putting into the Angler Quest, and I thought he was going to cry. He tried to hide it from Jason. I know you tried to hide it. I don't know if it was a tear or if it was a look of disgust. So the first time I went out with my grandson Trent on a shakedown cruise, and I realized that all the pads on my offshore OR-12 boards, the orange clip in front, they'd worn out. I had to replace them all. So I had to make a trip and go get those. Next time out, took along a couple of friends of mine, Brent and Gus. And I said, look it, guys, this is a trip just for me to reacquaint myself with trolling, to try to get back in the groove of things, to try to remember how to do things. We're going to do some exploring. I'm sure we'll hit my skinny water. If nothing there, we'll go out deep. And we did spend some time up in my skinny water, and we got some fish. Number 7 flicker minnows and spoons off jet divers on the back corners of the Angler Quest. But it was not on fire. Not like it had been, reports from my buddies days previous. So I reluctantly headed out to deep water. I am not a good deep water troller. I know the basics. I know the fundamentals. I know how to do things, but I don't have the confidence in those techniques in deep water. And listen, in anything probably, in life, you have to have confidence in what you are doing. The more confidence you have, the more you do it, the better you will be. The better you'll be, the more you'll do it, the more confidence you'll have. And I just don't do it enough to be real confident out in that deep water. I have, by the time you hear this show, I will have had one charity charter, and I suspect we will reluctantly end up deep unless I can make that first pass through that skinny water and it's on fire. Then I'm not leaving. If that's the case, I'm not going to leave. What else? Oh, a follow up to last week's show. There was a question from a farmer about getting a crop damage permit for rabbits. And I checked with the DNR and they said, yeah, you can, if there's significant damage, it can be documented. We can give him a crop damage permit. And then a friend of mine, John Haderer, sent me an email and he said, look, that was bad information. It says right in the DNR's own website, or maybe it's the hunting guide, I don't remember which, that you can shoot rabbits out of season if they are causing damage. He said, you don't need a crop damage permit. So, John, thank you for reminding us of that and, setting the record straight, I guess. The golf outing's coming up. Second annual Mike Avery Outdoors Charity Golf Outing's coming up Friday, July 25th. I just saw the numbers, and we're getting very close to being filled up, but we do still have some openings for golfers. Go to mucc.org/golf. Love to see you join us there. It's a fundraiser, as you know, to raise money for MUCC's youth camp. Is there anything better than getting kids in the outdoors these days? I mean, what outside of, all right, God, family, country, kids in the outdoors. That's my hierarchy right there. So it makes top 5 for sure. mucc.org/golf. We have openings for golfers. We also have, and we'll have an unlimited number of openings for sponsors for the event. A sponsor can be a cash donation. It can be if you have some goods or services that you would like to make available to us. And then we can use them in our auction as a fundraiser. We'll take them. mucc.org/golf, mucc.org/golf. I just texted Chris Durson of Rapid River Knives. We continue to go back and forth, trying to finalize, trying to tweak, trying to get it just perfect, the Mike Avery Outdoors signature Rapid River knife. Chris is being very patient with me. I got to be honest, I'm being a little bit picky. And Chris is being very patient because I think Chris likes to do things the right way and he wants things to be as good as possible as well. So keep an ear out for that. It's coming up. So who's coming up on this week's show? After the break, longtime outdoorsman and very active outdoor advocate Jim Felgenauer talks with me about sturgeon fishing. That season's coming up and more. In our second hour, Mark Copeland. Mark is the store manager for Jay's in Gaylord, but he's also a very avid archer. He talks about getting ready for the upcoming bow season. Is it too early to start thinking that direction? I can tell you for a fact, if you're a traditional archer, if you're shooting a recurve or a longbow, no, it is not too early. Then Adam Bump from the DNR to talk about the number of turkeys in Michigan. I have seen a definite decline. Will Adam buy into that? And then also he's going to stick around for the Ask Avery question, a very interesting one this week. And then in our third hour, Bobby Sullivan of Icebreaker Charters. He's a captain out of Linwood Beach Marina. He spends the first part of the summer chasing walleye on Saginaw Bay. Now he's getting ready to make the transition over to Lake Michigan, I think Manistee, and fish salmon. What is the mindset? What is the change in mindset? What's the change in gear? What's that like? And then we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. This week, a sheephead recipe. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine Radio. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Love to hear from you. Want to know what's on your mind. I'm so glad you're with us. I hope you can stick around for the next 3 hours. Okay, my friends, thank you for joining me. This is an interesting question from MB. Anyone happy with StreamYard's new features in the studio? MB. Huh. I did see the new features. I like the fact that you can adjust individual guests' audio. I think that's interesting. Greg, good morning. How are you? Doug likes the sheephead recipe. All right, my friends, I got to go. Charlie Root, he's like a slave driver. Can you even use that term these days, slave driver? He's got a whip over his head. He's cracking it above my head right now. He said, Avery, get off your live stream, turn off your light, take down your camera, wait for our next guest, and get ready. So what Charlie says, I do. So have a good day, my friends. I'll see you back here tonight, 7 o'clock, for another edition of Wednesday Night Live.